Well, happy Tuesday, everyone. Oh my goodness, it's hot, hot, hot. That's all right. We love it. I'm Dr. Laurie Davis, and you're about to watch Money Matters right here on the Today Show with Dr. Ramin Modiri. Good morning, Ramin.
Good morning. Happy Tuesday.
Yes, it's Tuesday again. My gosh, where does
It
time go?
is.
We keep saying that, but it's the truth. So, how are your temperatures in California this morning?
It is, it starts nice and cool in the morning. It's nice and cool at night. So thank God. It was a little humid yesterday, but yeah, we're in the 80s. Yesterday was about 90s, but it
Hmm.
is July after all. So
Yeah, right.
complain. So,
No, no complaints. Excellent. Well, we're busy. We've got lots going on. Let's see. We have some advertisers coming in. Those I
awesome.
keep showing those 30-second snowflakes going up in the air, but we'll soon have live commercials in there. And let's see, two shows today. Our show right now, and at 11 o'clock with the press box with Doug Smith. And today we're going to be interviewing former female hockey player.
Oh,
So yeah, that'll be very interesting. And it's a beautiful day here in the great Northwest, and I don't think there's anything else to announce. I didn't. Jay, I don't think is in today, but that's all right. And if he does pop in, we'll just stop whatever we're doing and give him a little time.
so of course.
So you have a very interesting topic for us today, and we're going to talk about two things. We always joke about this. Two things that nobody wants to talk about: sex and money. And my gosh, they're the two things that make the world go round. Who wouldn't want to talk about it? I don't know about that. Um, Virginia's here. Good morning, Virginia, our co host on Monday mornings. We had a
Good
great
morning.
show. And by the way, there's another announcement. That show went to the TDC YouTube channel, edited with music and ads and commercials. So check it out, ladies and gentlemen. The TDC YouTube channel is now airing our shows as well. So we're just all over the map. We'll be all over the map after today, though, because you're going to tell us some things that we. I better get my notepad out. I'm just saying, and take some notes. So sex and money, there's a connection for sure, and a lot of people maybe don't know that. So over to you again. I'm handing the mic off to you right now. Over to you, Ramin.
All right. Thank you so much. As you mentioned, the topic for today is following last week. We had our special show we did um, last week, which hopefully will be broadcasting soon. It was on the subject of health and plus wealth is equal happiness. And those are the big factors in everybody's life, individuals, families, communities. And you correctly mentioned two other things that they're very, very important in our lives are taboo. These are the things that, especially in relationships, they are hush hushed. It's the finances, the money, and sex or the relationships that nobody really openly talks about. And there's always this uh, ray of suspicion sometimes is that the trust, and yet they're definitely one of the most important factors in definitely in relationships. So the interesting reason for this that I know why it's important, because if you go to on Amazon, if you check the subjects of the books and best selling, you see they're in the finances, health, and sex, but people never admit it. It's
Okay.
something they're very curious, probably the most sought thing on internet. Everybody looks for it, but nobody wants to talk about it. So basically, that's what I thought. We'll talk about something and look at the relationship of how they have evolved and how interlinked they are. And I go back in history and we look at, for instance, in marriages, which were sometimes based on range. And one of the reasons it has become taboo because of the male dominance over the history, and it's always been the power. And so a lot of times women were married based on need, and because there was this subject and object, unfortunately, had created, the men were in control, and they are the one in control of the subject. So they never want to talk about basically finances because they handle it, and sex. Oh, women really didn't have a lot of rights. So basically, it was not really, the marriages were not based on love, openness, relationships. It was based on need. And because of the need, then again, you have someone who dominates the other one and doesn't need to explain things. And as I mentioned, over the histories, you look at again the usage of sex as an object, because women, again, because of the situation they were in, they became, again, rather than a human being, a lot of time they were objects. And you look at the history, whether in the Middle East, during the, or the Chinese dynasties, the kings, the emperors, they had harems.
Yes.
And those harems were the tools that they would use to satisfy themselves, because it was okay for a man to have 100 wives or 1,000 wives, or what, whatever, the numbers. It's funny, the history, we've come a long way, but you look around, you still have those, still in a, although it really improved, we're still in a male dominated world, that although men legally they cannot have many wives, but end up marrying, but also having affairs, and with many women. We have trophy wives. Many of the young, older men marry younger women. So that continuity is still with us. I also, it's interesting using the subject of wealth and sex in a way, like we go back in Chinese history and we look at the women, and how the little feet became very sexy. A lot of women, that it was an honor, although it was one of the most painful thing. Even the young child, like in the 5 or 6 or 7 years old, they would break the arch, and then they made sure the feet didn't grow. And the reason for that was, I mean, this is the logic, and that's what how the wealth comes is into picture. That wealthy women, they did not need to work, and because they did not need to work, they did not need to walk. So because they didn't need
Oh,
to
wow.
walk, that's why they didn't need really to have big feet. And also, the other thing was, when you have little feet, your hips swing from one side to another. It was very sexy. So that's what the emperors and wealthy people would do that, and will count as a beauty. So, um, again, coming back to our world now, at the presence, you look at, I mentioned about trophy wives. There are these programs, Housewives of Orange County, New York, Atlanta. There are trophy wives, and again, you see the combination of the finances, the wealth, the successful in these cases, like the husbands, and the wives are usually talking about. I've had friends who've been in part of the Orange County, believe it or not friends, I mean people that I know, and their wives have been part of that. Very superficial subjects, and it's all this reality shows, but it's still going on in a different faces. So one of the things I'm honored, I'm so grateful. My oldest child is my daughter, and I think for every man to have a daughter is such a great gift. And one of the things we make sure is she is self reliant, she's independent, so she doesn't have to go through all the things that, unfortunately, in a lot of cultures, especially again, females have to go through. That comes from self reliance, self respect, self worth, so they can make their own choice. and they don't have to worry about depending on someone else. So now, bringing back again the relationship between the finances and sex is, at least in the United States, the education, you know, 39 states plus District of Columbia, it is mandatory for sex education to to graduate from high school. We finally now have the 26th state, which is California, just approved last week that, listen, finances are so important. So now finally they're getting into the high schools. So the subject of sex was more important, the subject of finances, which I think it's important, of them are important to have that education. But as I said, there's less emphasis on independence and understanding the investments and finances in that superpower in the world than something like, physical, and again, which goes beyond that, understanding things. So um, but that's the importance of having both. So I'm going to give you a little fun facts, going back to talking about how you can actually invest in subject of sex. And I go back, when you think about sex symbol, you probably think of, most people, at least United States, they think of Marilyn Monroe. She was in old days, we've had Mae West and Marlene Dietrich and Rita Hayworth, and but Marilyn Monroe really had the breakthrough. And of course, one of the reasons she had that, she was on the cover of Playboy magazine, which is symbolizes again the combination of a power of men and sex. And in December 1953, Marilyn Monroe was in that edition, and that was just sold for $39,000. That magazine. So
Wow.
that's something again as a collector's. And then going back even old age, it's a lot of books have been tabooed. And Lady Chatterley's Lover by D.H. Lawrence, in 1928, it was privately printed. There was 1,000 printed and signed, and it is valued at $7,000 to $30,000. So just from the investment point of view, if you have any of those books, well, you're
No.
sitting on well, if you did, it would be sitting on a gold mine, as they say. So, um, so in the following, I'm gonna share with you that some of even biggest investors or investment minds, they do, they're lighthearted, and they know the value of, again, sex, how important it is. And they have I have some quotes from Warren Buffett, our favorite investor, and how he understands it. I mean, he's in his 90s, but he has some words of wisdom. And then we follow up with some of the opportunities in whether can we invest in sex related subjects, companies, and discuss, still to this day it is a taboo, and I will discuss that. So I don't know if we have a break, we can go to break.
Mhm.
If not, I will
Yeah. Yeah. We'll take a little break. Well, I also, too, think of Hugh Hefner.
yes.
Yes. Like he was such, there's another person that, you know, helped the sexual revolution, if you will, so that we would be more comfortable. But that made everybody uncomfortable, so to speak, right? Um, and when the Playboy Mansion went on the market, I wanted to buy it
Ah.
after he passed away. All right, yes, we're going to take a little break and let everybody get their breath because these are very interesting facts, and the connections are amazing when you think about that. The cost of those magazines and all that good stuff. All right, we'll be right back.
The day is set. Join us October 12th, 2024 at Carrigan Arms for our next fundraiser in honor of veterans, the Invictus Games in British Columbia, Canada, and TDC Employment Program enrollment. For more information, email us at info@thedisabilitychannel.ca.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Dr. Laurie Davis, your host today with Mr. Dr. Ramin Modiri, and we're here today on the Today Show talking about sex and money and the connections. And who would have ever thought about that other than the terrible crime activity through our sex trafficking and all that? We're not talking about that. We're talking about the dollars and cents and as it's attached to things that are sexual, and why people are uncomfortable talking about sex or money. Honestly, I don't get it. And they're both very natural, very beautiful, very, cash is warm and fuzzy. It's not cold, People say cold, hard cash. No, it's warm and it's fuzzy. Zig Ziglar said that.
Mhm.
And, talking about our sexuality and people just get really uncomfortable. And that's too bad, actually. I have no problem talking about either, and neither do you. So back to you for some more fun facts.
Yes. Again, one of the most respected investors, most successful investors in the world is Warren Buffett. And I thought I'll share some of his sayings that how he relates to, again, the sex in a fun way. And one of his sayings is it's about being focused. And so these are the teaching moments. And as you know, we'd like to hopefully share our stories to help our new generations, people that they have a long journey ahead, the young people, and hopefully by learning some of these, it will pave the way to more successful path. So one of the things he talks about being focused, and he's very focused. He reads all the time, and he says, if I'm playing bridge and a naked woman walks by, I don't even see her. So that's his focus, not that. And I think her. So the other thing he says it's about due diligence. In investing, due diligence, doing our homework and be very careful is very important. So he goes, other guys they read Playboy, I read annual reports. So that really stimulates him. I can see that. Talking about dopamine.
That's cute.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then he talks about sometimes the politicians they come up with these packages, stimulus packages, and sometimes they're tons of fluff in there. And one of his sayings is he was reading one of the packages and he goes, oh, after reading it, it was like half a tablet of Viagra and having also a bunch of candy mixed in it. It doesn't really have quite the wallop. So just because it has something of both doesn't mean it's going to have any effects. So they jump in. So that, again, is sense of humor that he has, and
Right.
he talks
Right.
about that. Now, this is again something for all of us, but mainly especially our younger generation. He says you want to have a passion for what you're doing. You don't want to wait until age 80 to have sex. So because we always talk about patient, I'm going to do it later. So do it, have the passion, and enjoy what you're doing now. Another one is about people who are impatient and the speed of recovery. They like things happen very quickly. So he says you can't produce a baby in 1 month by getting 9 women pregnant. It just doesn't work that way.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, that's another good one is about we've talked about bull market. Bull market is when the
Mhm.
markets are going up, everybody's positive, and he says a bull market is like sex. It feels best just before it ends. So,
Oh, that's
so
great. Well, I see, excuse me, Ramin, I see Jay is here, so just hold those thoughts,
Sure. Okay.
and I'll let him
The
come in here.
volume. Volume?
Good morning, we hear you.
No volume.
Oh, you
No,
can't
no
hear us.
volume. Oh, maybe. Can you guys hear me?
Well,
Yeah.
yes.
You can hear me? I can't hear
Yes.
you guys.
Oh, no. Talk
So
then.
let me just talk then since I can't hear you guys. So right now, I'm at one of my biggest supporters. We're at Kia out in Burlington as they support my channel, and we have a fleet of cars through Kia. So right now, I'm getting one of my cars oil changed. And you can see there's one of the service guys. There you go. I'm in the showroom right now. I don't know why you can't hear me, but I can see you guys. So again, I just thought I would pop in. The show is live on our Facebook, on YouTube, shared with SiriusXM and your TV to more than 34 million people. So we're giving Kia a huge plug. Again, I'm Jay Stoyan. I'm going to sign off. You're watching the Disability Channel and our flagship show, The Today Show. Say bye, Kia.
Bye, Kia.
See you guys. Talk to you later. Bye bye.
Bye-bye. How fun is that? Oh, that's awesome. I didn't realize that they had vehicles that were supported by Kia. Very
Right.
good. Very nice.
Excellent.
Yeah. All right. Over to you. Thought number whatever. We're
Yeah.
talking about Warren Buffett and some things he had to say. What was that last one? Oh, yes, that was a good one.
Yeah. Um, when another one, I thought it was about the reputation, and this is
Okay.
important again for the young people. It says, "Would you prefer to be the greatest lover in the world and known as the worst, or would you prefer to be the worst lover and known as the greatest?"
Oh, wow.
That is, I think it's a deeply stimulating question, when you
Mhm.
think about that. So, I mean, I really enjoy, again, when we talk about lighthearted, successful people. And here, again, he doesn't see that as a taboo. He sees it's a message that he can relate to public. But again, what we talked about, even to this day, Dr. Laurie, investing in sex industry, and we're not talking about like a trafficking, but sex related, and we've worked with some venture capitalists, it is a no-no. Although there is a huge market, and there was a company called Amboy Street Ventures in 2021. They raised capital, and they have been investing in about 12 countries and 12 companies, biotech, health related, and contraceptive implants. I mean, these are the new companies, the technologies, and they're one of the first ones. They still to this day, it's something that investment companies shy away. They don't want to get involved just because of the impression that it gives. As a matter of fact, there is another company in Brazil, and they're very big now. They are, especially on the female side, they're raising funds to, for considering sex tech investing. Now that we have so much technology, there's a lot of improvements in that arena. And but again, it's a taboo. It's about pleasure, about being open, education around sex, about the diseases. It's become really, or pregnancy. It's like been very hush hush. Although everybody knows about it, everybody's concerned, but nobody really wants to talk about it. And um, as a matter of fact, for instance, this is like with the sex toy industry now with the AI technology. It's just amazing. Robotics, it is a fast growing industry. As a matter of
Wow.
fact, year 2030, it is expected to be worth $80.7 billion industry. So as an investor, you might think, wow, this is somewhere I want to be involved. But how many times, if I'm talking to the family, say, oh, I'm investing in this sex toy company. So it's not something to be really the subject unless, you're in a bar and a couple of friends or they just want to brag about things. Other than that, in a general public, even as a
Right.
portfolio manager, it is something that it's not. And it's not, we do have ESGs, which is environmental, social, and governance funds. It's about ethics. They want to invest in socially acceptable, for instance, no tobacco usage or youth labor. And sometimes, I mean, this could be part of that because it has that taboo. Although it's about health of the community, it is
Hmm.
about, we will discuss, for instance, subject of condoms, which can be preventing a lot of diseases. There are companies which I will relate to. It is something that nobody really discusses. That the good part is, the Gen Z, the newer generation, they are more open and liberal about talking about these, the attitudes. So, and they are getting more into startup companies. But before, I would never go to my client and say I'm investing in a sex toy company. It was not something you would discuss it. Um,
Well,
anyway,
we have I'll just inject this at the moment.
please, yeah.
If you're a Canadian, and in my generation, you would be very familiar with a show. It was on television for years. It was called Front Page Challenge.
Mhm.
And the panel there was a hidden guest, and they had to figure out, who that person was based on a front page story. But one of the panelists, his name was Gordon Sinclair. He's passed along, and very wealthy. And he initially invested in tampons when they first came out in the 60s. And that's how he made his money.
Yeah.
And it was really hush hush. How did Gordon Sinclair get to be so wealthy sitting on a television show in Canada? Not unknown, basically, but he was a journalist, and so yeah, he that's how he made his wealth. But I bet he didn't go to galas and soirees and say, "Oh, I just invested X amount of dollars in tampons."
Yeah.
Right? So I hear what you're saying.
Right.
Hmm.
So, one of the actually, I think we encourage one of the ways investment related that you can publicly actually invest in, and I will give you a few names if anyone is interested in buying stocks or shares, just if you're conscious about that. Is again, we talk about condom market, and it has been growing again because of the global growth. A lot of places it was a taboo even using condoms, especially males will never want to even think about it. And you go, especially in developing communities. Now, as of 2022, the condom market in the United States was like $8.4 billion, and is projected to grow to about $13 billion by 2030. So it is a pretty good sized market. And there are a lot of different companies around the world, by the way. It's not just the United States. There are companies in India, in China, in South Korea. So there, Australia, there are big manufacturers. In the United States, the biggest one is Church and Dwight Company, and it's a stock company. The symbol is CHD. They're the biggest presence. But also, again, in the sex related or in it's like in that subject, there is a company called RCI Hospitality, and what they do, they are in like a cabarets, Jaguar clubs. They're in the club entertainment club arena. And what it is interesting is, as investors, we always look for opportunities and themes. And when COVID happened, as you know, I mean, obviously all the entertainment, anything public was shut down. Who would go out, especially go to this kind of adult entertainments? And so their stock price, and like in middle of April, like 19, it was at $7, and within like less than 3 years, they went from $7 to $97 with the
Whoa.
opening of the things. They moved up so rapidly. So they are, as of yesterday, they're at $46. So it is the symbol is RICK, RICK. So that's if anyone is interested. And you also mentioned about Playboy, and that was very influential in many ways. Again, in a hush way, and on the other hand, a lot of entertainers, they would love to you athletes. They would go to the mansion, and his daughter took over Hugh Hefner after he passed away. Now, it had a huge growth, but unfortunately, the whole thing has fallen apart now. This stock was at, just exactly 3 years ago, it was a $55 stock, and their symbol is PLBY. It's like a Playboy. Today, it's 90 cents, under $1. It's
Ooh.
only a $65 million market cap. So it has, with the influence of, again, technology and other things. And as you know, what has happened, a lot of hard copies, and, people are moving more digital. So again, it's amazing how people do things in hiding. They have interests, but they never admit, or they will not openly talk about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But more advanced when it comes to healthcare and biotechnology and medical, then we have companies like Pfizer, famous for Viagra, and Eli Lilly. They have done, they are very much involved, and constantly there is improvements in the medical technology. So those are more of a general, companies that people could use. Another up and coming now industry is the female condoms, and they are growing very fast. And right now, there's 10 companies around the globe. They're not public yet, but some of them are becoming public. So that's another, it's a growing business. So anyway, do we need a break? I just don't want to.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Yes, we'll take a little break. And, I guess what I'm getting, the one thing about discussing sex, a lot of people will talk about sex, but they have to do it in a way that they're making fun,
Yeah.
or they use humor to try and cover up the seriousness of it, really. So they can't really have a conversation about sex without making fun or jesting about that. So that
Right.
just came up for me as you were talking.
Right.
Okay, well, let's take a little 30-second break, and hopefully we will have maybe a sexual product get advertised on the show.
Introducing Veteran House Alliance International Monthly 50/50 Raffle. Purchase your ticket today, link on display, and have a chance to win cash and help a great platform supporting veterans. The Disability Channel would like to thank our existing sponsors. We really appreciate the support and kindness from the BIAs across the GTA, Ontario, Canada, and our friends in the USA. We love making new friends. Thank you for supporting our existing employment programs.
Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to the Today Show here on the Disability Channel. Dr. Ramin and I today discussing sex and money, two things that we're not allowed to talk about, but we don't care. We're allowed to talk about them because we're adults. And maybe we should get a condom company to sponsor the show. That would be good. Always thinking, right? Because sex sells, and we know that. Back to you.
Yes. Talking about that, if you look at some of my invest or stock related or finance related movies, like Werewolves of Wall Street, for instance, you see how much combination of sex and money goes together, and not in a good way though. That's the drugs and other things. But one of my favorite movies of all time, if you ever have a chance, and I think we've talked about in the past, it's called Trading Places.
Oh,
It was
yes.
in 1984. It's Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd. It's it's actually has a reality behind it. There's some factual, uh, basis for this movie. And one of the big players is Jamie Lee Curtis plays in that movie, and she is, you know, befriends Dan Aykroyd, and really she was a lady of the night. She was in one of the oldest, I guess, careers or uh, whatever works, and she was really important factor to give him the support that he needed. So that reminded me, we do have, uh, you know, when you think about that, you think about uh, when they work in this line of business, believe it or not, what do they do with their retirement planning? Because it's a cash basis most of the time. Unfortunately, they don't have a corporate structure. And so they some of them don't file taxes. So if you don't, you cannot have a retirement plan. In the United States, you have 401ks, you have IRAs. So believe it or not, simple things like that, they can become very complicated. So unfortunately, it's like athletes, they have a very short window of working unless they get skilled in some other things. And so that's a food for thought, that even if they get into this line of business, there's no really future unless they get into the legal side of things. And in the adult movie store, actually, adult movies, they actually started getting unions, I guess, and they want to
Okay. Hmm.
benefits and other things. So these are the little things. And I remember, when I was going to school in the 1980s, and I had relationship with Ivy League schools. And a lot of these Ivy League schools, if the parents weren't paying, some of those students, the female students, they actually working as strippers, and
Hmm.
they were making a lot of. That's how they paid their, way through school.
That's right.
And some of them were not shy about it either. And
Right.
one of my I've shared this before, but one of good friends of mine, and he's a dentist, a very successful dentist. We used to play soccer in 1990s, and he at that time he had just graduated from USC, which is University of Southern California. It's a very prestigious school. Whatever, it was something he said. Oh, one day, there was a student, co-student in a dental school that she was. So my background is Iranian, he was Iranian, and the student, she was an Iranian, and he said she was very studious, and she was very shy, never talked to anyone. And one day, one of his friends, my friend's friends, sees her, and then next time comes to her and says, did you know I saw her in one of these adult movies? She was an adult movie star, famous as a movie star, and she was a very quiet. Nobody would ever, very proper. And so people live double lives. And that was funny, when he was telling me. And things like that happen, living the double
Hmm.
life. But
Hmm.
that's how they made their, she was paying for school, playing in
Hmm.
this. Um, as a matter of fact, I did 2010. I was a part of a group, you know, it was a group of self-help, and it was like a 3-day conference. And the person who sat next to me, and we had a group, and this young lady, she was talking about her past, her life, and again, nice young girl, about her problems, and come to find out that she she was just on ABC 2020 program, and she was a famous adult star, and her parents were her manager. And I told her, I said, no wonder, no wonder you have all these complications. So in life, it's interesting how things can turn around. But but she made a lot of money, but the parents took the money, and
Wow.
she was really messed up. I mean, she became
No kidding.
since age 17. I mean, it was
Yeah.
minor actually, but the
Wow.
parents played a big role in that, and they were very uh, proud of what they were doing, and the show wasn't it. But yeah, she would talk to me as a father,
Yeah.
really as a father
Yeah.
figure. And but anyway, yeah. So basically, that's a little tidbit in that. I come back to my world in finance and portfolio management, which I've been involved with institutions and other things. Even to this day, you see that still there is more male dominance in investment world. It's changing, which is a good thing, but it's not changing rapidly. And one of the reasons is men, as a we talk about hunters, they are more aggressive, and they pretend, or at least they are, or at least pretend to be overconfident. So they actually take a lot of risks. They overtrade, and when they lose, they really lose bigs. On the other hand, what we found out, female portfolio managers, again, because of the nurturing nature that they are more conservative. So they want their protectors in a way. So the portfolios that they come out with actually in the long run beats the ones that male dominant portfolio managers are. So when it comes to the sexes, also you see that this differentiation. So in the long run, if you have a female manager, you would do better. But again, this adventure related over risk taking men, male dominance, they want to gamble, play
Right.
games. So in a short run, they can have a lot more volatility. So just from that point of view, also when making choices, that's important to take into consideration. The other thing about females, when it comes again, not the difference of sexes, um, generally they are less optimistic about economy, and the reason is a lot of times they are the ones who see the reality of expenses. They're the ones who do most of them the shopping. They see the inflation. They're the ones who have to buy things for the children and protect the children. So they become more optimistic because they're in charge of a lot of times at the household budget. And because of that, but also, and that's hopefully changing, because they have lower pay. If you have single mother or you have divorced, eh, because of the finances are more strict, they'll become more conservative, and they are again more cautious when it comes to finances. So
Mhm.
just a little tidbit. So it's not just about sex in that point of view, but also our upbringing, but also the way
Mhm.
we are wired. Things can change, and our experiences. So
Mhm. Absolutely. Wow. Well, I was responsible for bringing sex education into our school. I wasn't responsible for it. It became mandatory, but a lot of the teachers were very uncomfortable,
yes.
right? And because of their own insecurities. And so I was teaching at the time grade 6, and that's where they were introducing sex ed. So I have told this story before too, but I had a very good friend, and male, and he was the other grade 6 teacher, and we'd gone to university together, and we'd been friends a long time. So we had a chat about it, and I said, are you comfortable? What are you going to do? Well, he said, we definitely have to do it. I mean, it's part of our job.
Mhm.
And he said, I have no problem with it. And I said, I don't have any problem with it either. But why don't we do this? We'll put all the girls in a group. We'll take the girls from your class, the girls from my class. I mean, this is 1980 something, 82 something, 83. Take all the girls, and you, the male, share with the girls. And I'll take all the boys. And he said, that's a really good idea, because it gave the girls a male perspective, and I gave the boys a female perspective. So this is a cute story. This actually happened. And I So I've got all the boys in the room, and we're starting. Of course, and we start with the body parts and talking about puberty and all this kind of stuff. And this one boy at the back, I can see his face right now, beautiful blue eyes, blonde hair. And he said, "Oh, Mrs. Robar, I understand it now." I said, "What?" "Well," he said, "on Saturday, last Saturday, my dad gave my mom and my sister his gold Visa card and told them to go shopping because he wanted to spend some time with me downstairs in the family room." Okay. So he said, they went shopping, and dad said, "Let's go downstairs, son. There's some things I need to share with you that you need to know." So he takes his son downstairs, and he couldn't do it. He got all, the dad got all hot and sweaty. And he said, "Dad got all hot and sweaty and red in the face. And he told me he wanted to tell me some things about my sister and what she's going through because she had started her period. And I didn't know anything about that." But he said he couldn't do it. And he said, "My sister," I said, "Dad, what are you trying to tell me?" "Well, maybe we'll do this another day," he said. Dad said, "Well, we'll do this another day." And in the meantime, mom and sister come home, and they've got bags and bags and bags of dad's Visa card run up. And this is an educated, professional set of parents living in a great community with great kids, and dad couldn't cough anything up to his son. That's pretty common, isn't it?
Oh, it sure is. I know
Yeah.
my dad. I never forget the day that actually he wanted to open up. I'm like 14 years old or something, driving. He drove me from school, and in the car, I could see him like thinking, like for half an hour. We are behind the red light, stop light, and I remember this. I mean, I remember it vividly. And he finally comes out and he says, "Son, I want to tell you about a very important subject." And you've grown up. Now I'm 14 years old. I went through puberty. I was, I think, 11, almost
Mhm.
12. I was
Mhm.
almost, I'm not quite 12, but that's so I've been like 2 or 3 years. He had just brought himself up about what it is. And I
Yeah.
said, "Dad, don't worry. Anything you want to know, ask me. I'll be open." Like, he just looks at me. Says, "Oh, I'm sorry. What?"
Yeah. A little
"Dad,
too
if
little, too
you have
late.
any questions or anything, I can answer." So, yes, I mean, it took
Yeah.
him like 3 years behind the whole
Yeah.
thing when I needed it. But yeah, the parents have difficulties.
Mhm.
Of course, nowadays with the access of all the information and
Yeah.
technology, you
Yeah.
still, as a parent, you want to be very open because you
Yeah.
don't want them. Unfortunately, a lot of things can be misunderstood, and that's when you want to be available, always
That's
available as a
right.
father.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. My dad was very open, and I believe a lot of that had to do with his experience as a veteran overseas during the war. They would say to these young soldiers, they'd get and he shared this with me, they'd get 2 or 3 days off, and they told them, "You go and do whatever you want to do and have fun." And they'd hand them a 40 ouncer of alcohol, a carton of cigarettes, and a package of condoms. And this was during the war, and said, "Go do whatever, because when you come back, you might not get out of here, or you might not." So they lived like that. Like every day was their last. And
right.
I believe that attitude was totally instilled in me by him, and having that openness and being okay, because I could go to him with anything and talk about anything, and he would talk to me about anything that like that. So it's Kathy made a comment, and I'd love to hear what you have to say about this, because this is nice. She said, "Good thing for men to have daughters because you think differently."
Yeah.
What do you
Yeah.
have to say about that?
Oh, absolutely. No, I mean, it's a greatest gift, especially actually having the first child as a daughter. It's just amazing, and it makes you appreciate really uh, the different perspectives and the respect. And yeah, no, I totally agree. It's
Mhm.
wonderful. Yeah.
Well, actually, I believe I became my father's son. I was the firstborn, and then there were girls, a few girls before my brother was finally born. But I'm the one, that went fishing and to the garage with him, and he actually supported me this way too, and I'll always remember this. I was in the whole organization, Brownies, Girl Guides, Rangers, and so we sold Girl Guide cookies, and everybody knows what Girl Guide cookies are all about. And I said, Dad, I want to go down in front of the liquor store, down at the shopping center, which was not walking distance from my home. And he said, Do you want to go there? I said, Yes, because Saturday, that's a busy place, and I would sell lots of cookies. So Dad would take that Saturday and load up the trunk. He kept making trips back to the church hall to pick up more cookies all day long. And he said, You know what? You're a businesswoman. And he instilled that in me. I was what, 12, 10? I don't know. But boy, my goal every year was to sell more Girl Guide cookies than anybody else. But, those influences from our parents. So if our parents were closed about talking about money, which mine were, we didn't talk about money very much. We didn't know how much Dad earned or anything like that. We just knew when there was lots of it and when there was none. That was the extent of our financial education. And sex the same way, because in that generation, it was all very hush hush. So being closed about that stuff, it really impacts us later on.
Right. Right.
And decisions we make. But you also reminded me of something that I used to do, and I think I should reinstate it. And we'll have 1,100 workshops if I do. I used to do a workshop called Prince Training, and it was for men. And it was for guys who wanted to learn how to be attractive to women and to, so I did things like how you need to, don't show up on a date with a ball cap and your sweatpants, things like that, like grooming. And we discussed sex and what a woman enjoys and what you need to do. And I just remembered that. And, sex sells. I think I have to reinstate that. I'm going to go find it. And I called it Prince Training. And it was very well received because it was a small group and they would come to my retreat center for the weekend. And they just had an opportunity to talk openly to a woman about what, and I said, you want to attract a beautiful woman and keep her, then there's things you need to do. It just doesn't happen. You have to make it happen. So what do you think? Maybe we should do a prince and princess training workshops. And sex sells, and we'd probably do very well, I'm thinking. Always about the business, right? Always about the business.
Very interesting.
Oh, Virginia has a little tip here. She said she became her father's son, being the firstborn, but Virginia also has a son. So she said, I got a book when my son started asking questions. He was young. So it worked really well to lead into that conversation. Yeah. Cool.
Excellent.
Yeah. Good mom. Hey, good mom. All right. Well, our time is drawing nigh again already. So I'm trusting everybody enjoyed the show today. Some really fun facts. And I loved Warren Buffett's analogies and how he put the two together to make a statement that's profound.
Yes.
Make profound statements.
I finished this again, a little facts again, how I mentioned about these investment movies and other things. The relationship, how profound sex has been for 5,000 years. It has affected our language and also traditions. I'll just give you little tidbits when it comes to investing, how like stock market, or we've talked about technical analysis like with the charts. So a few of the language in investing in the stock market, like some of the things they say. So like you watch CNBC or watch Bloomberg, they say there was a buying or selling climax. So
Oh,
they use
wow.
this kind of language to get to the point. They say the markets are firming up,
Right.
or there is in technical analysis, we have when the price comes down, moves up, comes down again. They call them double, triple bottom, or we have Adam and Eve patterns. So
Oh,
these are,
wow.
you can see how it's, again, the language has come even into money and investing, especially in the stock market. So just want to finish it with that. That
Yeah.
there is a huge connection when it comes. Again, we're talking about taboos, but it's there, and
Right.
people should not shy away from discussing these things. So, thank
No, that's right. Okay, well, I'm hoping that we've opened up that Pandora's box, so to
you.
speak, so we can be more free, be more open, have discussions, talk to your kids about money and I'm glad to hear that California state number 26 will be embracing financial education. I hope you're going to run that program, are you? They should have come to you. All right. Well, thank you, Dr. Ramin, and thank you to our audience. We had some live listeners this morning, but you'll see this morning we didn't have a great big pile of comments. Ha. Now, I think that's significant. I don't miss much, and maybe it was the topic. Who knows? Right? There's a few up there, but nothing really profound other than Virginia's. Well, Kathy's here too, and Kathy made some comments as well. But all right, so I guess we're going to close off the show right now, and we'll be back in an hour from now. I will
Yeah.
be returning with Doug Smith, our host, and we have a beautiful guest, Janine Sharon. She's a former hockey player, and we'll be doing our show, The Press Box. I better go freshen up and maybe change my clothes, but I don't think so because it's too hot. And so bye for now, everyone. And tomorrow we have Wednesday Wellness featuring Kay Sheffield tomorrow. And we'll be back on Wednesday for some wellness education. Thank you, Ramin. That
My
was
pleasure.
terrific.
Thank you. Have a wonderful rest of the week.
Mm-hmm.
Bye.
Politics get in the way. Freedom is the price I pay. I'll be long gone. On a distant mountain top, neither side is willing to stop. I'll be long gone. Held hostage to wishful thinking, mama, yeah. Bullets travel in a straight line. Nothing can change his heart or mind. Don't think I'll survive beneath the velvet sky. Ooh. Know that I'm out here for a reason, yeah. Hard to understand just why, everything I have today out here on the barren plain. Time to move on. Outside of the line, I swear, road used to be right there. Now it's all gone. All gone.